Laso kamatli ometeo hihaniwaste yaat ebine. My name is Tomas Lopez Jr. I am a member of a group called the International Indigenous Youth Council. I was invited here to speak by our community, and I want to start by thanking all of you for coming and joining us here today in this beautiful weather, in this beautiful water of life. You know, we're always running around screaming water is life, mini Choni. Well, we're out in the water. We're out in the life. We got what we asked for, right? And Colorado's going through a really bad drought right now, so in all honesty, we should be really thankful for this beautiful water, for this gift of life to us today. So we're continuing to do this work in all of our communities throughout the nation. And one of the chapters that we started is here in Denver. And we're actually, we're really happy to be here today. We're really happy to speak here in front of our community and to our young people. It's really important that all of these young people are here today. That all of these young people are watching their adults set the example for them. That they're watching their adults see that they can plan something, and that regardless of anything that happens, they will finish it. They will continue to do it. That no matter what stands in our way, we will always show up. No matter what happens. That is the responsibility as adults. That is the responsibility that we have to show these young people that no matter what happens in our communities, no matter what type of oppression we face, you have to continue to stand up. You have to continue to rise. You have to continue to show your people that you and your people are worth it. Don't ever feel like anything can stop you. Don't ever feel like anything will stop you, because if you have your people, if you have your way of life and you do things in a good way, you can do anything. We've seen these young people and what they can do. With the kids in Washington, D.C. and Florida, what they did for March for Our Lives. To the young dreamers who are at the border fighting for their brothers and sisters to be free. To all of our indigenous young people who have to fight the system that was built on their backs every single day. We're all fighters, and all of the young people have to start rising to the occasion. It's time that we ease the burden off of our elders, and that we start to show up. We start to pick up where they left off, and we can let them know that if they go tomorrow, that we will continue fighting. We will continue showing up. We will continue to be here, continue to speak, continue to grow our hair, to speak our language, to sing our songs, to exist in a world where we were not meant to be. I want to pray for our missing and murdered indigenous women. I want to pray for all of our women that came before us, those who have really been the backbone of our societies, those who have been the backbone of our communities. I want to pray for them now. I want to pray for all of our children and the 7 generations and all the youth groups around the world who are rising to the occasion, who are fighting to change the world around them regardless of what anyone else says.
Hello everyone, my name is Christy Wildcat, but my native name is Strong Heart Woman, and I am enrolled Northern Arapaho. I come from Riverton, Wyoming. Today we came together to gather in solidarity to raise awareness of many issues that Indigenous people face. Not only that, but to also remember our past and our ancestors' journey to get us here and where we are today. The other day, my mom and I were talking about her alma mater, Haskell Indian Nations University. It is a great school, and many of the folks that went to school there with my parents are now considered family. As a young child, I was fortunate to attend classes with my parents, and I knew that there is a history to Haskell as a boarding school, but I did not know what it truly was at the time. My mom shared me with some old work of hers when she worked a work-study there. It was during this time when the Cultural Center was getting ready to open up, and they were working hard to ensure that all the documents, artifacts, and other important pieces of the school's history were in order. My mom's role was to transcribe old registration records into digital records. She showed me some of her work, and it was really neat to see where many children had come when Haskell was a boarding school. There were children from tribes located across the country: Arapahoes, Pawnee, Sioux, Cherokee, and the list goes on and on. There were brothers, sisters, and children as young as 6 years old on that list. The list included approximate ages and the date of registration. As I flipped through the pages, my mom told me to look closer. She asked me, "What else do you see?" And then it hit me like a ton of bricks. There on that list was a column for DOD. And for those of you who don't know what DOD stands for, it stands for date of death. As I scanned the list, I realized that the number of children that were lost at Haskell and never made it home was greater than it appeared initially. There were two brothers who died 2 months apart, one from consumption and one from pneumonia. The horrors that these children face, many people nowadays can't even imagine. The side that you can see in very few history books are that these children were stripped of their traditional clothing, they were forced to cut their hair, they were banned from speaking their native language, and they were punished for acting in any manner that might represent their culture, traditions, or just for being too native. The side that you don't hear is that our saviors intended to cure us from savagery and save us from ourselves by stripping us of our culture, traditions, and identity. They also gave us many gifts. Gifts of physical and sexual abuse, gifts of disease and neglect, and if that was enough, they threw in torture and death as a bonus. Many of our children never returned home. They either died or were buried at their schools, or if they did return home physically, their spirits did not. When these children were ripped away from their families, the circle of our people were broken. Every person within our tribes had a role to play. We had our future in our children, our protectors in our adults, our educators in our elders. There was crucial in ensuring the survival of our people and guaranteeing that our culture, language, and traditions were carried into the future. As our people watched our future being taken away by the men in black, they watched it slowly fade away. In 1869, General Philip Sheridan said that the only good Indians I ever saw were dead. The Indian Wars and many massacres of our people resulted in this sentiment. It was in 1892 when General Richard Pratt shaped the new policy on how to deal with the Indians by kill the Indian and save the man. General Pratt then founded the first boarding schools and based it on education programs that he had developed in Indian prison because he wanted to extinguish the entire Indian race. The boarding school era began. By 1900, there were 20,000 children in boarding schools. By 1926, nearly 83% of Indian school-aged children were attending boarding schools. To this day, our Indigenous people are affected by the atrocities created by boarding schools attendance that our ancestors went through. We feel the intergenerational trauma running through our blood, which makes us predisposed to alcohol and substance abuse, suicide, violence, PTSD, and depression. The roles of parents within our tribes have changed, therefore leading to a loss of identity, where we are quickly losing our languages and have very fluent speakers left. Our Arapaho tribe alone has less than 4 dozen fluent speakers. Many of our stories are lost. Our ceremonies that were generally taught to our children were forgotten, and when they were not able to be passed down to those who were intended to carry them on. But we will not let this define us. We are survivors. We have survived boarding schools, Sand Creek, Wounded Knee, Little Bighorn, and the Trail of Tears, and all of the broken treaties. And we survive the current policies that our federal government places on us today. We will speak out and make sure that our history and that many refuse to acknowledge is recognized. We all need to work to bring those children that never made it back home so their spirits can rest. As we look back today, we need to think about all of those across this country who are also marching and gathering in solidarity, because we truly have the strength in numbers. When you try to stand up to a critic or speak out against something, let them call you a snowflake. They have to remember that a snowflake is unique and beautiful. And when many of them come together, it can cause a great storm that can shape the landscape of our country.
Dos Nana Nanana, Jaslyn Wildcat, Nan Anana. Hello everyone, my name is Jaslyn Wildcat. My Indian name is Strong-Hearted Woman. Before I begin, I would like to take a moment to speak the names of some of our sisters, our mothers, our aunties, our cousins, and our friends. Savannah Longpontrack, Gray Wind, oh my gosh, Misty Upham, Henny Scott, Hannah Aguilar, Ashley Loring, Heavy Runner, and Carmen Walker. Who are these girls and women, you may ask? Well, they are part of an epidemic that our Indigenous people are facing every day. These names are just a few of our missing and murdered Indigenous women and girls. Every day, I wonder how our Indigenous communities got to this point. Why is it that instead of playing outside or having a carefree life, our families now have to teach the young girls how not to become a statistic? Our history and the intergenerational trauma resulting from those atrocities do play a major part in that. But the media's depiction of the over-sexualized Native maiden or the Pocahontas also plays a part. But most of all, it's the lack of recognition and inaction from our law enforcement authorities and leaders that is the major contributing factor. We have the statistics and indicate that violence and the resulting reformations is an issue. 4 out of 5 Native women will experience violence in their lifetime. 56% will be a victim of sexual violence. Take a moment and look around you. Remember the faces of our Indigenous women and girls, including my 3 sisters. There are 4 of us. And every day I wonder, who will be next? But when our Indigenous people stand together, we can work together to make sure the answer will be no one. Thank you. Ho ho.
Hello. Hello. I'm Sammy Kuchakwita, great-great-great-grandson of Quanah Parker, last chief of the Comanches. Here today I represent not only the Comanches, but the LGBTQ and Two-Spirit communities. As a Two-Spirit of this community, my duty is to heal relationships between these communities. Quick shout out to the LGBT Community Center of Colorado, who does a great work up here on Colfax. Many services for youth, families, people of all ages. The Rainbow Alley, ages 11 to 21. Great services. They're there for to help events, that sort of thing. I'd also like to mention the Denver Indian Center up on Morrison Road. Their services and events and programs for all Native. They partner with Buffalo Barbie, who is Two-Spirit Princess. They connect with the LGBTQ youth, families, and supporters. Events like movies, potlucks, even drag shows. So I'd like to thank both of those organizations. They are dedicated to you if you are looking for help or wanting to help others connect in person, social media. Either you need them or they need you. I'd like to also thank all the non-Native people that support us here today, as well as in Washington. These people are special people. These are heroes that stand up to bullies, just as we are. They stand with us. So I'd like to thank them for their presence, their prayers, their contributions. Never forget, they march with us. Today I am speaking on behalf of LGBTQ and Two-Spirit people, but they are not the same. Many of our tribes and tongues have names and definitions for these beliefs. of the Two-Spirit. I try to keep a constant communication with my Creator. I also ask for counsel for everything, including you. My calling is to be healing and hope through my words, my song, my love, my dance, and my devotion to all people.